Yes, go ahead, Juretha. I'm sorry for the short break in transmission there, viewers.
I'm not sure where you lost me.
Yeah, no, we had a short break in transmission there, but we have resumed now, so we're live again. Continue, please.
I'm not sure where you lost me there,
Well,
Norman.
you were making reference to whether the context of the statement was a threatening one that
Oh,
would. Mhm.
okay. What I was saying was that I'm not going to fall into the trap as the one in which we're discussing to before determine my own bring forward my own interpretation as to what he was saying or what he wasn't saying. But what I am telling you is that as Guyanese, we had an instance prior in which someone was marked. Those very words were used, mark him, and the end result was that person died. So, given that fact, now again, when those words are used, it cause grave concern. It is a matter that it's frightening to say the least. So, based on the history, and someone like Mr. Khan would also know the history, know that these words were used then, and that's what happened then. So to say it was just an irresponsible statement would be an understatement by itself. It was a dangerous statement. I can
It was
say
a
that.
dangerous statement. Let us go.
I thought it was a dangerous.
Let us go to a clip where Amanda is speaking to the media after making a report at the police station in Georgetown.
Concerned with what Mr. Khan has said, and I think everything has to be in context. Over the last few days, we have witnessed women being murdered, young women being found in shallow graves, etc. And I think it is irresponsible, to say the least, for somebody who was a sitting commissioner on the Ethnic Relations Commission to call for me to be marked, to call for my home to be picketed. I am a woman, I am a mother, and I have a family. What is most distressing is that all of this stems from a misinterpretation of what it is they claim that I said. And I think I have offered a statement on what it is that I said. And I will continue to say that at no time did I make that statement about Indo Guyanese. Now, what is important for me is that this has the potential to take Guyana down a road that I do not believe that we want to go.
She said she feels scared given the fact that Khan has one of the largest private security firms in Guyana.
And therefore has access to significant weaponry. And so I'm not prepared to say that this is something that I'll just let it be. He referenced the ethnic war in Rwanda. Now, this is a man that has the means and the weaponry to bring this about. And so I do not believe that it is something that we can take lightly. And the thing is that when it descends and decays, they will all jump on a plane and leave us here to figure it out because they have the means to do it.
Walton Desir, during an online program, Politics 101, said the main.
Ganesh, I wanted to ask you the same question I asked Juretha. When you examine that statement coming from Mr. Roshan Khan, and looking back at the history of such utterances by people in power who has the capacity and capability to execute on such threats, were those remarks by Roshan Khan a direct, indication of like kind of calling for the head of Amanza Walton Desir?
Norman, I am going to differ from Juretha a little here. I don't think that there is anything to be interpreted. I think his statement was direct and it is pellucid enough for persons to understand what he was getting at. I read his statement and I was moved. I was taken aback because he is a weird character, I must say that. But not withstanding that, he was a commissioner on the Ethnic Relations Commission. He is a prominent member of society. He is what he calls himself Haji Roshan Khan. And I think that title of Haji comes to you after you would have
You have gone
visited
to Mecca.
Mecca,
Yeah.
which is the place of peace and the pilgrimage
Hmm.
of godliness, if I may. I think that is how you can put it.
Hmm.
And he also has a large security form. So many people know him through his security form. At one time, I remember he had an online program too. I think in the morning he used to come on. I think 7:30. So he is a popular figure, if I may put it that way. But with his recent statement, believe he is now in. I believe personally now he is a notorious figure in our society. And given that he has what I will say some degree of qualification in the field of education and can, in my view, analyze situations, one would have expected him not to make those kinds of statements in the public domain. But he went about and did it
So
nonetheless.
it was
And when
deliberate.
you take it into context, it is a deliberate action on his part. And if you look back at his statement, the word marked was not used once. I think I read it in his statement about 3 or 4 times. So clearly, he was sending, in my view, a subliminal message to persons and what they should do. And that is very unfortunate coming from an individual like Roshan Khan. I believe he was direct and intentional in his calling, and he should face the consequences of that action. I don't believe that his post was one where he was, like, for example, you said he was trying to explain what he said, but I don't that his explanation has any weight because he went and he pulled down the post, as you said, and then he went and he didn't even offer an explanation on that post at that time. The fact that he pulled it down is because he recognized that it was gaining traction and not traction to which he would have liked it to gain. And it comes back to what I was saying to you earlier.
Precisely.
The
Precisely.
time is here now in our country where persons are held and for statements and for actions. And if they cannot be responsible, they will be called out and one would expect that the justice system will take its course in bringing justice to the aggrieved party.
And
And we
and I
have a
tend to.
system now where persons, especially politicians, they cannot go down the road of playing the same game that they used to play 15 or 10 years back. The cycle has changed. The people are now more conscious. The people are more responsive. The people are more inquisitive. The people are more au fait with what is happening in our system. And it is necessary for all politicians, all public figures, all persons of influence to recognize that there should be a calling for us to unite as a country, for us to move forward in one action, for us to recognize that development must trample upon destruction,
Yes, but
for us
before.
to recognize
Yes,
that
I
there
will
is a
let you
greater
continue,
need for
Ganesh, on that.
mutual harmony, togetherness, unity, love.
I will
They
let you
must recognize
continue
that there's a
on that.
calling for that
But
now.
getting back to Roshan Khan, I want to agree with you, wholeheartedly agree with you, that there was some amount of guilt coming from him, and that is why he removed the post. And this is what he went. He issued a statement on YouTube, and this is what he had to say.
Walton Desir fiasco and whore, referring to Indian people of Guyana, the diaspora around the world, and since historical times as mentally lazy. This was very painful for me and for many people to imagine that we have in Guyana persons with such hate against us. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, you know me, I'm a respecter of women. I write poetries and love. I lend all kinds of support that I can in my personal capacity. I'm a lover of peace. I'm renowned to be a lover of peace in Guyana and around the world. Roshan Khan, as you know, I am never a violent person. I always preach forgiveness, but I stand in principle for what is right. I stand in principle for when things are wrong, and where people will try to humiliate other people, including when some Indo Guyanese try to attack the Afro Guyanese. I'll put them in their place and let them know that I'm a lover of Africans, their history, their cultures, their contribution to the world, to humanity, to the sciences, to Guyana, to our own development. And I got flack from my own people at times because of the principle by which I live. So when I'm saying,
Juretha, what do you take away from
Norman,
stark
Norman,
contrast?
please permit me before you go to
Yes, go
Juretha.
ahead, go
Juretha,
ahead.
just one. It came to me right away when I was listening to that statement. Is this not the same man who was one woman as Ayok? Something to do with rent and paying of rent and some house or something where he said Ayokain? Is this not the same person?
Wow, wow,
I'm not sure. I don't know.
wow. Juretha,
Norman, I am absolutely certain it's the same person that referred to an
it
African
is the
woman
same
as
person,
Ayokain. I will
and there
try
is
to
a
find that clip and share it with you, my brother.
there's a level of hypocrisy there, and there is a level of guilt. We've just Sherwin MP Sherwin Olders just joined us, and we wish to welcome him. But Jurito, what do you think about that about turn from Roshan Khan?
It's not an about turn. It offers absolutely no apology for the statement that was made. It based on what he said, he pretended that that statement doesn't exist at all. All right. So there was no apology, no remorse or anything, because I guess he's trying to pretend he doesn't know anything about it.
Mhm.
Probably is going to go stay next at his account after something of that nature, because I think he did that once before for some other foolishness that he said. But the irony of saying that um, he doesn't he's not a hateful person, whatever it is that he just said, because the statement that we're referring to is a statement laced with hatred. There was
Yes,
nothing else in it. It was laced with
was
hatred.
not an
Someone
expression
that
of love.
no, it was the emotion of hate was the only thing that was expressed in through the words that he used. He was all cap locked to make sure that he was angry and hateful. He was in the words that he used when he said mark, like oh, capital letters, the emphasis and the anger that was put out in that. So I don't see that as being any attempt at an explanation at all. It is just I don't know what that was supposed to achieve, because it didn't achieve anything. I just listened to it there. It doesn't make any sense at all. Who does he think that Guyanese are? I would say this. Ganesh would have highlighted a lot of tangible things that we did as a coalition. a lot of tangible things that we can point to and say this is an achievement and that is an achievement. But one within the 5 years that the coalition was in office, one of our greatest achievements was something that was intangible, and it was our access to information and the fact that no more were Guyanese left without knowing happening around this country. And we have in every region there was a communication drive to make sure that everyone is informed, and persons that representative old school representative of the PPP, they're not used to it as yet, and they're not used to the fact that everything that they say, it just at the click of the finger, it's all over the world. Now, I don't. And another thing I would say this: persons that there are certain people that just should not be allowed to utilize social media or technology altogether. I think Facebook even upheld their ban on Donald Trump because some people just
I agree with
they're
you, Rat. I want to
diabolical.
interject and say I agree fully with you, Rat, there.
Yes. Director, I
Yes,
love,
I
I
agree
really
with
love
Juretha
that, but I
completely.
really love that, but the PPP may return to say, look, she's becoming dictatorial. She wants to decide who should use. But let me go quickly because I'll come back to you because
no,
we'll
it's
wrap
not
up in 10 minutes.
dictatorial, Norma.
We'll wrap up in 10 minutes, but
It's
let me go straight to Sherwin. Sherwin Holder, MP Sherwin Holder, another young MP, another young visionary in the coalition government. Well, Sherwin, you are familiar with Amanza Walton Desir
Yeah.
story and what the PPP is saying, and of course what Roshan Khan would have said. You have just listened to Roshan Khan saying he's a man of love and peace. Briefly tell us what you think about when you heard him, and as a member of parliament who is in touch with all that happened. What is your take on that, Sherwin?
Mr. Brown, good night.
Good
Thanks for
evening.
having me on your program. Sorry that I'm a bit late. I
That's
wasn't so
fine.
prepared. But I'll tell you this. As I was listening to the recording there just now, um, let me tell you something. I didn't really listen to Mr. Khan's I don't want to call it an apology because it's not. But I just listened to it. But it took me back to the days of the recount. And coincidentally, I myself and Mr. Khan worked in the same room. He was right next to me as an observer,
Hmm.
and so I had many days, many days. It was over a month, I believe, sitting next to him and observing him, listening to him, and he what he was accusing Amanza of, I get the sense that in fact, he is that type of person. He is the person that has these race tendencies. Because I've listened to him,
You coming
I've
off this?
had
Okay,
much
you go.
conversation with him, and I had to put him to his place, so to speak, on a number of occasions during that recount because of the kind of talks, the kind of loose talks and loose rhetoric you get from him. So it didn't surprise me when I saw that post from him about Amanza. It didn't surprise me at all because I know the guy. I know the guy. Just yesterday, I was talking to someone who is very familiar with Mr. Khan also from way back in the national service days. And the gentleman was saying to me, that is who Roshan Khan is. That is the type of person he is. He plays a lot of games and try to pretend to be neutral. He tries to pretend to be God fearing, but behind the curtain, that or behind the mask, that is the person that he is.
Yes.
And I don't believe that he can change. I don't think he can change. And I love that point that my colleague mentioned. Some people, they you just don't allow them to go on social media. They don't. They're similar to Trump. It's just a disaster. Every time they go on social media, it's a disaster.
It
And
is
I
a
know I want to
disaster.
say this personally about Amanza. I know her very well. We communicate a lot while we're at in the chambers at Parliament, and I don't know her to be anything of a racist. I know that she is an astute politician. I know that she wants to see one Guyana. She believes in the coalition message of unity, and so I was taken back uh, with all this nonsense and this spin that the PAP placed on it. That she's being racist, and so in this country, Norman, in this country, you cannot have a conversation about race. The tension is so high, especially when the PAP is in office. We saw 5 years of peace and much. I don't know if to say unity, but we were getting there. We
Mm-hmm.
were certainly getting there. But 8 months and we're right back where we started, or maybe even beyond that. And so it is very, very difficult in this country to have a conversation about race. Anything you say about race or pertain to an ethnic group, there's a spin on it. There's a spin on it. Somebody is always offended, or there's always the politicians always put a spin on it, and it goes out of proportion.
What do
But I
you
want to
gather?
say this:
What do you
Amanza is
gather, Shirley?
nowhere, close to being a racist. From my point of view, she is totally the opposite of that.
What do you gather
I
when
don't
Rush?
know. I don't know. I can't say the same for Mr. Khan. I cannot say the same for Mr. Khan. He has a record, especially on social media, especially since he's joined he has been a commissioner on the ERC. You know.
Mm.
Yes, go
But
ahead, Mr. Brown.
I wanted to ask you, what do you gather from what the PPP said about Kemraj Ramjatan, and also what Roshan Khan said about Ramjatan, when Kemraj Ramjatan would have who's an Indo Guyanese politician. They will soon call Ganesh a traitor too. But when 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 Roshan and the PPP called Kemraj Ramjatan a traitor for supporting the position that Amanza Walton Desir had, and I want to say that that wasn't a conversation on race. That was a conversation on politics and supporters, which means that in every party you have Amerindians, East Indians, Africans, and even white people in the form of the U.S. ambassador in the PPP. I understand, but I wanted to ask you that question. What do you think within the context of calling Ramjatan
I
a traitor? What it
it
spelled out?
it had my personal view is that it had nothing to do with the actual conversation, with the actual program that Kemraj and Amanza was taking part in. It was actually a message to their core supporters and to largely Indo Guyanese. It's a hidden message. It's a dog whisper to their constituency to rebuke the AFC, to rebuke Ramjatan. It's a direct attack on the AFC. That's one. And two, the PPP thrives. We must understand that the PPP thrives on racism. They thrive on racism. They thrive on division. They Guyanese wake up and recognize that this doesn't make sense. Racism and this division doesn't make sense in this country. Is the day the PPP will stay out of power for a very, very long time.
Wonderful.
So they thrive on that. They think that they have uh, uh, an um, uh, an
A
advantage
monopoly.
due to the fact that there is a little more Indo Guyanese than Afro and mixed race and so on. So they thrive on that. They and that is Jagdeo politics. I must say that is Bharat Jagdeo politics. It comes directly from Jagdeo. That is the way he's always been. We saw it in 2015 elections. We saw it in 2011, as far back as 2011 elections. We saw it in both of those elections. He has a way to do these little dog whispers. So it is nothing personal with Ramjatan. It's just he's speaking directly to his base and he's speaking directly to the Indo Guyanese
Guyanese,
that look,
yes,
do
yes.
not follow this guy. Is with the others. I tell you something. I don't know if MP Ganesh he might not he wouldn't want to comment too much on this, but very early in Parliament, when we started Parliament as young MPs, one of their MP, one of the PPP MP, the government side MP, actually called Ganesh aside and asked him or reprimand him for being on our side. What the person actually asked him what he's doing amongst those persons. I
You're
don't
not
want to go
serious.
into the details here, but Ganesh
You're
can bear
not
with me.
serious.
But that's
But
for
Ganesh,
another conversation.
look, we're running out of time. Look, I will
But
give Ganesh.
Norman,
No,
you
one second.
can't let
I'm giving each one of you 4 minutes to wrap up with your closing remarks. So you can 4 minutes is a lot of time because we have to go. And of course, I will. I really, really am so touched and moved. And even though you came on late, Sherwin, you made me laugh because people would not believe that these things are happening. It sounds so
Yes.
outrageous that
Yep.
even Indo Guyanese are beginning to understand that there is nothing good coming from the PPP with the leadership that they have. Because you can have a new PPP with young visionaries that can continue that democracy of different parties challenging for leadership. But ordinary PPP people are beginning to believe now that this thing is becoming too outrageous. I will, of course, give you each 4 minutes to wrap up and to say, what you want to say as it relates to Guyana and your party. But before we go there, I wanted to ask this question that you can incorporate in 30 seconds in your 4 minutes to respond. We know that when the coalition was in power, that there was a lot of work by the police. We saw law enforcement improving. Like in a situation where Roshan Khan would have made those statements, whether it was a black person or an Indo Guyanese person, they would have been arrested already. We also saw the freedom of speech existing under the coalition government. You could have cussed Armand, you could have cussed Grange. I still cuss Armand now. But the thing is that you add that latitude without fear of reprisal. That is, and the other thing about the coalition government is that it brought peace. It made people feel secure. It made people feel that sense of, I can walk in my country without being worried about, being politically maligned or and so on. So it is something that we have missed over, I think, the 8 months now that the PPP is in office. But it is something that must return. And on our next program, because I promised Ganesh, and I live up to my promises, we will not discuss the PNC politics. But I'm hoping to have you young MPs back on this program for us to talk about where the coalition went wrong during the 5 years that would have allowed the PPP with the same criminals to return to power. But that is for another program, and of course I will have you guys back on. So let us start with Juretha. Juretha, ladies first. Juretha Vanessa Fernandes. You've got 4 minutes. And I'm timing you. I'm
All
timing
right.
you. I have to time Ganesh too.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for for the time. Or first of all, the first thing I want to do is to just continue. I am here as a member of the Alliance for Change. I am the president of the YFC, the youth arm of the Alliance for Change, and I am an executive member of the Alliance for Change. So when comments are made about the leader of the Alliance for Change, Mr. Kemraj Ramjatan, I must comment on such things. And what I can tell you is that I have had the privilege of working alongside persons like Kemraj Ramjatan and Moses Nagamutu. And what I can assure you is that the hatred that the PPP have for those persons, Mr. Ramjatan, every time the PPP look at Mr. Ramjatan, it hurts them because he is a constant reminder of what they have to face right now. Mr. Ramjatan left the party, and he says it very openly. When he was out and they came and himself and Mr. Trotman, Ms. Sheila Holder formed the Alliance for Change, you would all know the political history leading up to 2015. And in 2015, as soon as the coalition joined the APNU and that unity was formed, it was the end to the PPP, and the PPP would never forgive, if I could put it like that, Mr. Ramjatan, because they know full well that his influence is what brought the victory, is partly what brought the victory to the coalition in 2015. I can tell you that when Mr. Ramjatan is referred to as a traitor, it just goes directly into this narrative. It's a psychological warfare that is going on, and we need to acknowledge it. I try to speak on it, but the fact is that a lot of people are not really interested in diving into the details of psychology and how it affects our thinking and our political views. The psychological warfare that goes on within, that the PPP leaders put out there, it's us against them. If you are not within our house, then you are against us, and we must fight everything that is against us. So by saying Mr. Ramjatan is a traitor, they seek to encourage persons to not listen to what he has to say. But that will not hold out, because when Mr. Ramjatan speaks, he speaks from a position of knowledge. He speaks from a position of extreme influence that came from years. I think it's over 29 years being a politician, parliamentarian. So this is someone that was brought up through the ranks of the people. He knows their inner workings, and it is something that they know is very dangerous to them and how they operate, because now you have someone that is fighting against you, that would have known how you strategize at the internal level, if I must say. So the hatred that is meted out against him it's very strategic, and I know that there was a campaign that was so there is still a campaign. I think it's a little watered down now, but there is still a campaign that says, "Oh, the AFC is dead," and that, because that's psychological warfare. That's a psychological warfare that is out there. But I would use my last few seconds to say this. We know, and you hinted a lot on it. We know that there were things that could have been done differently, and it is important for us to acknowledge those things. It is important for us to market and to strategize moving forward in order to better the system in which we wish to govern Guyanese. Guyana is home, and we cannot at any point in time just drop the ball on our plans. We had a stumble, and that this is what we should consider this time in opposition as a stumble. And we must rise, to the challenge, and we must plan as we move forward. Come 2025, if it takes that long, we must be ready with plans that this is what we're going to do in the Home Affairs Ministry. This is what we're going to do in the housing sector. This is what we're going to do for education. This is what we're going to do in the Department of Foreign Affairs. We must be ready at that point in time. And that is my plan. That is how I think. And I believe that once we are prepared, and we put forward our plans and policies to Guyanese once again, then we will be capable of gaining back their confidence in us at all levels, and that is what we need to work towards.
Ganesh, 4 minutes.
I disagree with one point made by Juretha, is that we back the confidence of the people. Coalition ever lost the confidence of the people of Guyana. The coalition was cheated out of office and not defeated. At the national recount exercise, which we had at the Arthur Chung Conference Center for 33 days, there were 29, there were 49 ballot boxes without statutory documentation to verify the votes that are found in those ballot boxes. There were dead people's names that were ticked off on the official list of electors indicating that they voted. There were missing oaths of identity. There were unsigned oaths of identity. There were hundreds of people who migrated and did not return to this country on or before March 2nd, 2020, but their names were ticked off as voted. In my humble view, the People's Progressive Party rigged the last elections, and they are the real riggers of elections in Guyana. Elections 2020 and the recount exercise solidify and concretize the position that the People's Progressive Party is the rigor, and we cannot run from that. They were, in my view, assisted by external forces that had an interest and still continue to have an interest in Guyana. The geopolitics of today's society contributed significantly to what has happened at the last elections. So at no point do I believe, in my firm conviction, that we have ever lost the confidence of the Guyanese people. I believe the people are strong behind us. I believe on paper, based on what GCOM said, we represent half of the population in the National Assembly, but I see our support base growing exponentially. And if I am to carefully assess the situation on the ground right now, the coalition represents more than half the people of this country. And I believe that my conclusion is rooted in facts after considering all the anomalies, abnormalities, and irregularities that were found in the national recount exercise. Norman, I want to thank you for this opportunity to be
You
on
still
your
got a
program.
minute. You still have a minute.
I believe that I'm going to elaborate on that now. I want to thank you for this opportunity to be on your program, and I want to tell you that our leader of the opposition is doing an extraordinary job when it comes to not only assisting us, the younger MPs, with the experience by inviting seasoned politicians, by interacting with seasoned politicians, by having various different activities where we can expose ourselves to each other, we can learn each other's strength, we can learn each other's weaknesses, we can learn the threats that it possesses and the opportunities it presents. There are a number of activities that the leader of the opposition is engaging us young MPs in, and Juretha and Sherwin will agree with me. The leader of the opposition also is not a dictator. He is a democratic leader that allows all of us as his MPs, both from the coalition, both from the APNU and AFC side, to make our voices heard, to give us that platform and opportunity to speak on issues. When we have our meetings
But let me
collectively as
cut you quickly. I'll
MPs,
give you
you
back
know
your
what?
seconds. I'll give you back your seconds. But let me cut you quickly. He goes on Mark Ben Shop's show. He goes on different shows. But because I am a host that kind of publicly, condemn him in certain areas, he refuses to come on this show. I've reached out to him on several occasions. Is that the sort of leader that one would have, where you have a supporter that is working assiduously on the coalition side, on the opposition side, albeit though it is an independent program. This host has made it clear that this program is anti-PPP, and the leader of the opposition refuses to engage me, much less come on the program. Take your 30 seconds back. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's 30 seconds or a minute, but there's a famous saying. There's a famous saying that goes like this. Sorry about that. Am I still on?
Yeah, you're still on. It looked like your internet suddenly went haywire. You play with the
No,
wires.
somebody called me and I mistakenly answered the phone there.
Is it
There's
the leader
a
of the
famous
opposition
saying that
called
goes
you?
like this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Those who hardly know me, they are definitely going to condemn me. And that saying is one that is needed to take into context. I am sure that the leader of the opposition will appear on your program. I know him to be a person who is willing to engage, and I believe he will engage. And I am convinced, Norman, that when he does engage in your program, you will have a different position and perception about him. But notwithstanding that, I am grateful and thankful for this opportunity. It is my first time on your program, and I look forward to being here more often.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Norman.
Beautiful. 4 minutes, Sharwin. Sharwin.
I like how you pronounce it.
Yeah, it's Sharwin. It's not Sharwin.
Yes. I want to pick up right where Ganesh left off. He made some expressions that I was thinking the same things as he went on. Politics, especially, is about perception, and even myself, I had a different perception of Mr. Harmon years ago. Mind you, I am a central executive rep of the PNC, so I've been around for some time, right? But I had somewhat of a different perception. You hear all sorts of things out there, and you run with some of these things. But when you get to know Mr. Harmon, when you get to know him deep down, then you really see who he is. And I agree fully with Ganesh. He's a democratic leader. He allows us to spread our wings and basically do what we have to do. He communicates a lot with us on a daily basis. I think we have a very, very good working relationship. And I know a lot of persons are saying that, Mr. Harmon is not doing anything. The opposition is not doing anything. I don't, I beg to differ. We have been doing a lot. What we have not done successfully.
Let me cut
so
you quickly.
far.
Let me cut you. I'll give you back your 30 seconds.
Yes.
Ganesh, Ganesh, I want to say this to you. You said to me we will not discuss PNC politics, and you
opened it though. You opened it first by.
Let me go to Sharwin. Sharwin, let me give you an example.
You opened it by saying you condemn Harmon a lot.
No, you started it. But we will have this discourse another
I don't
time.
think I'm in this segment anymore,
No, but you will have a minute still. But Sharwin,
Yes, go ahead.
differ completely with the views yourself and Ganesh is positing. I differ completely. I also differ with Ganesh's position in terms of us not losing supporters. As Juretha would have said, we need to win back those and so on. I differ with that. But the point I'm making, though I differ with the positions about Mr. Harmon, you are still allowed to be on this program and to say what you want to say in support of Mr. Harmon. I trust that you will go back and let Mr. Harmon know that he can and should come on this program because it has been long overdue. You have your 1 minute back. You have 2 minutes now.
And that's the democracy we all enjoy.
Thank you for expressing that, Mr. Brown. The next point I wanted to make is that we're proud of what we achieved as a coalition. We did not do everything as we supposed to do. We had our faults. We must accept that. We must look back and see where we went wrong. I'm happy that we will have a program where we can put that into
That's
perspective.
a promise.
Look back and discuss where we went wrong. And as young MPs, we can you know have that kind of honest discussion. I have it all the time. I have it all the time speaking with supporters. I frequently highlight where we went wrong and what we should be doing when we get back there in office. What are our plans as young MPs, as fresh politicians, you know. But going back to the point, I'm nevertheless proud of what the David Granger administration achieved, and I want the public to acknowledge that it is the same David Granger administration that we're proud of. We're proud of so many achievements during that 5 years, so many things that we can boast about. Um, Fast forward to 2020, 2021 with the PVP, well, after my August 2nd, we've seen so much change. We've seen a breakdown in law and order. We've seen corruption on the rise again. We've seen, a total mismanagement of the economy. And there's so much more just in 8 months. And, you know, personally, I had expected any political party to make errors, but not so quickly and not so many errors. And so working on the ground, you're hearing very much of what you were hearing back in 2015 and 2011. And so I have no doubt, I have no doubt that our support is well, let me put it this way. I have no doubt that
30
people are
seconds.
seeing the PPP for who they are. I think a lot of Guyanese, the vast majority, are disappointed, and I believe, I have no doubt that whenever that election is called, if it's 2025 or before, whenever that election is called, we, the coalition, stand the best chance as it is right now uh, um, to return to office.
Wonderful. Thank
We've
you.
just got to get our acts together. We've got to come together and stop the infighting and sort out our little issues, and we're gonna get there. I'm confident.
Wonderful. Thank you. Before I give Juretha, sorry, uh, the last minute, as promised, let me just say to the viewers that the Voice of the Diaspora, of course, is working assiduously on its own to bring the news to you. This is just an aspect of Voice of the interview section and so on. But we have an online newspapers. We also have an online TV. What we need is the creation of employment of two young journalists that will cover stories in Guyana, and also read the weekend news, for Linden and other parts of Guyana. And what we're striving to do is to be a voice across Guyana that brings the news and information to the diaspora so that they stay connected in this struggle. You understand? To see the back of the evil and wicked PPP. Now, I'm saying this because I'm asking for the help. Of course, our Cash App is in the comment section. You can click on that. Those of you in the diaspora who support this program, you can click on that and you can make a contribution. Norman Brown doesn't need anything for himself. Norman Brown needs to build this program so that it can rival Kaichur News, it can rival Stabrook News, because we are aware that those traditional mainstream media houses have become pro PPP, and the coalition is in a situation where it needs all the help in terms of information. And so I ask you to contribute, and those of you who wish to contribute in the diaspora, you can inbox me and I can send you the cash app. It's the first time I'm doing this. I've invested everything I have to make this work, and the online newspapers lying there as professional as any online newspaper in Guyana or in the diaspora. But we need writers, we need journalists, we need people who could go into the depths of the community, into places where traditional media houses don't go, and expose the suffering and the abuse and all these things that are happening in Guyana, and bring it to the world so that that change can come and that we can see the back of the PPP. So if you're a PPP supporter, I am being very altruistic and honest. This will be a medium that will stand up to the PPP hegemonics rule and ensure that Guyana sees a brighter day. So please go into the comment section and you will find the app there, my colleagues. Let us please support financially, and if you want to support in other ways to make this medium stronger, please give me a call. Please send a message. Juretha Vanessa Fernandes, opposition MP, firebrand young MP in Parliament. You have 1 minute.
Uh, Thank you so much, Mr. Brown. I think it was a privilege of mine to be here tonight to have this candid discussion. I appreciate so much when I have an interview with someone and they're very straightforward and candid and not trying to sugarcoat anything at all. I am proud to be a representative of the coalition. It is something that I take very seriously, and I intend to always give representation, not based on what I think is best, but based on the feedback that I get from the grassroots. Because at the end of the day, those are the people that went out and voted for us, and they are the people that we need to represent every single day. Um, we have tonight Ganesh and Sherwin, and I can tell you that they are an amazing bunch of 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 people. I am proud to work alongside them. Sherwin is exceptional in his representation for the people in Region 2. He does not miss an event. Ganesh is exceptional in his representation, and it is an excellent team when you look at it all together. I personally cannot say anything negative about the leadership of the opposition MPs by Mr. Harman, as Ganesh had put forward. I believe at this point in time, it is a matter more so like the song was say cricket in the jungle. Those little details would come into play. A lot of times when persons are put in position to govern and to lead, a lot of comments come from various sections of society on what best should be done. But at the end of the day, the decision must be made by the person sitting in that seat. I would encourage you. I appreciate the fact that you're out there doing what you do. I have to say that, and I commend you tremendously for that. But what I can tell you also is that do not just write off the leadership of Mr. Harman. I think the you may have more in common than you want to admit, if I dare say. So the passion and the flair for representation, it's among all of us. Let us put those efforts together. Let us unite our voices, and let us make sure that come the next election, we are there and we are empowered to represent.
Juretha, Vanessa, Fernandes, I could listen to you all night, but this is where we have to bring the curtains down. I shall reiterate that I'm so moved, I'm so tremendously touched by your deliberations, yourself, Sherwin, and Ganesh here on this program tonight. Is groundbreaking. It's groundbreaking. I thank you very much for being on this program. Continue the good work. Continue holding the PPP accountable. Continue standing up on behalf of your opposition MPs, and we shall speak in the near future. Have a blessed evening.
Good evening.
Yes, thank you,
My
Mr.
fellow
Gordon.
Guyanese, the PPPC's most recent attack on me is a frightening indication of the fact that they are content to continue to stoke the fires of racial and ethnic strife in Guyana. In their haste to excoriate me for a statement I made during the course of a 1-hour discussion, the PPP has not only misrepresented my words, but they have unwittingly demonstrated to this nation, in no uncertain terms, that race baiting and the promotion of ethnic insecurity remain the chief weapons in their arsenal to control supporters and continue their dangerous divide and rule politics. Some weeks ago, I appeared on the program Politics 101 with Professor David Hinds, in which we discussed a plethora of issues relating to the political landscape in Guyana. During the course of the discussion, I made the point that the maintenance of true freedom requires that each citizen must be willing to assume the responsibility and the work that comes with being truly free. I said that in this regard, we have mentally lazy people and that the PPPC understood this very well and capitalizes on it. At no time did I say Indo Guyanese are mentally lazy. The point that I was making, perhaps inelegantly in the moment, was that the PPPC takes advantage of the fact that by and large, we simply allow propaganda to take root in our minds and neglect to inquire and investigate for ourselves. In so doing, we allow lies, because they have been so often repeated, to become our truth. Interesting is that later in that very program, Mr. Kemra Dramjitan, the leader of the Alliance for Change, and himself an Indo Guyanese, commended me for the anti-racist theme in my politics. Why then have the PPPC deliberately chosen to misinterpret and to malign? The interpretation that the PPPC and their sycophant surrogates have placed on my words confirms that they are content to continue the ruinous racist rhetoric that has plagued Guyana since her independence, and one which continues to arrest her development. Their propaganda machinery has been put into overdrive to paint me as a racist. Yet in their crazed frenzy to deliberately twist my words, they have forced every Guyanese to ponder this one question. Is the PPPC suggesting that they consider only Indo Guyanese to be their supporters? Since my entry into the political landscape, I have made it clear that the issue of race and race relations in Guyana is the single most defining challenge of our time, and how we as a people choose to address it will determine the quality of life of the future generations of Guyanese. This is our hour of decision. We, in this moment, as a people, must now demonstrate whether we will confront and dismantle the social constructs that keep us in fear and discrimination, or whether we will make a conscious decision to refuse to continue to reap that bitter harvest of the seeds of ethnic strife planted so long ago by those who once held us in bondage. There remains no doubt in my mind that the conversation on race is one that some in our society remain unwilling to have. We therefore must ask ourselves, is it that a Guyana perpetually mired in racial and ethnic tension is preferred and promoted by those who wish to use the tension and the confusion created by it to distract and divide our people while they plunder the patrimony of our beloved nation? The conversation about race and the advancement of the people of color, and make no mistake, here in Guyana, we all are considered people of color. The conversation is one that the entire world is having, and we must not shy away from it. We must refuse to be left behind. We must tackle head-on the myths and misperceptions about each other that have been handed down from generation to generation. We must reject the manipulations of the unscrupulous that would cause us to be controlled by hatred and fear, whilst they rape the treasury and enrich themselves and their friends, leaving the ordinary Guyanese to fend for themselves. We must face some inconvenient truths, but we, our children, and our children's children will be better for it. For them, we must begin to truly chart our course to becoming one people, in one nation, with one destiny. Brick by heavy brick, we must begin to tear down the thinking that paints us as irreconcilably different and it makes us believe that we are unable to live together in the same space, much less thrive. We must demand that the crushing knee of race-based thinking and race-based politics be taken off of Guyana's neck so that she can breathe again. We must resist allowing those not interested in peace and in unity, but only in power, to think for us. We must covet and promote independence of thought, and we must be willing to put in the time and effort required to arrive at informed decisions and conclusions. We must make friends with facts and reject the miasmic mutterings of mendacious men. As a people, we must commit to building this new Guyana great and free, a land of glory and of hope, a land of love and unity. We must, though imperfect, strive for a more perfect love for our fellow Guyanese. The APNUFC coalition has demonstrated that it is a coalition for all Guyanese, irrespective of race or creed. We understand that Guyana is a multi-ethnic, multicultural society, and therefore we consider it our sacred duty to create a society which fosters a sense of belonging, promotes trust, and affords each Guyanese the opportunity to earn an honest living. A Guyana where families can thrive, where differences are appreciated and positively valued rather than exploited for cheap political gain. It is my firm belief that it shall not be in vain that we will strive to build this new Guyana great and free, a land of glory and of hope and of love and of unity. This new day for Guyana depends on this. The future of Guyana depends on us. May we all be blessed and strengthened by our respective faiths and beliefs for the task ahead, to unify all the peoples of this dear land of Guyana. I thank you.